Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Meyers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and I think a lot of people are going to learn some things today.
Yes, we're going to be talking about a legal topic, but not necessarily for lawyers. For the lay people that are out in our audience that think they might like to pick up some additional law type learning, this is a good way to do it. It's called the Masters of Legal Studies, and we've got the boss person of the Masters of Legal Studies with us, Lisa Monsour Millington. And Lisa has been a longtime friend of mine, and her father was even a longer time friend of mine, bless his soul. But I think you will find it interesting on how the OU College of Law is branching out into not simply making lawyers, but making better business folks through a study of law.
And it's coming up today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Right now, 6 feet can feel like a long ways away. But from 6 feet, we can still smile at each other. From our doorways and our stairways, from opposite sides of the street and opposite sides of the country. Through fear and frustrations, we can remind each other that we are still here for each other. Because we can still smile at each other. And we're not going anywhere.
Military service ran in my blood, starting from my father, which joined the Navy, on the Chickasaw side, my uncle, which served in the United States Army. I'm Benjamin Espinosa, Chief Petty Officer, United States Navy, and I'm Chickasaw. I went to the Secretary of Defense's staff at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., which ultimately led to becoming a combat support technician for Naval Special Warfare, specifically SEAL Team 10. I think to be proud and to love your tribe, to love being Chickasaw, you also have to love being American. You also have to love everything that America stands for. Equality, perseverance, professionalism, and power. I want my family to know that their father is a good person, but also feels that he has an obligation to the country and to love this nation. Anything worth having is worth dying for. The military and the country owes me nothing. I owe it everything.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As we talked about, we are very pleased today to have Lisa Monsour Millington join us. Lisa holds a leadership position at the University of Oklahoma College of Law. She is the executive director of the Graduate and International Program at OU and has been since 2019. Lisa did her undergraduate work at OU, did her law work at OU. She's had a number of different positions at OU, including the Equal Opportunity and Affirmative Action Officer, which I imagine she was pretty active while she held that position. She is the boss person of the MLS program, the Masters of Legal Studies program, which is the main thing we're going to concentrate on today, but also the LLM program, Masters of Law program at OU. Lisa, sure glad you're here. We really appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
Lisa, first of all, who might be interested in getting into this program? Is there a certain type of professional that you're looking to attract?
Well, our programs right now, we have 4 specific subject matters, and it's working professionals that are in all 4 of the programs. Our first program that we started at OU was the Indigenous Peoples Law program. And so within that program, there are people, working professionals who are within tribes or working professionals who are in the government working with tribes. The next program that we developed was the Oil, Gas, and Energy Law program, which recently we've rebranded to Energy and Natural Resources Law so that we can incorporate more energy and renewables into the program. And that particular program, we have engineers, we have geologists, and landmen those types of professionals. And then in all of the programs, we have students who are maybe wanting to change careers and to get into these specific fields. The third program that we developed at OU is the healthcare law program, and we have physicians, nurses, hospital administrators, human resources. Professor Meyers could tell you more about that program because he's been teaching in it since the inception. And then our newest program is international business law. And again, that's just all sorts of different types of professionals that work within the United States and also internationally with that specific expertise.
Would a person who owned a law degree be interested in these types of courses, or are they only available for people who have graduate degrees in other areas?
Okay, so you do need a bachelor's degree to get these graduate level courses. Lawyers are in these, but within the past year, we've also started LLMs, which is an advanced specialized degree for lawyers. So the lawyer would have the choice to do the MLS degree or get that LLM, which is a more specialized degree within, on top of their JD.
I see.
So,
Well, now, these courses are all taught online, are they not?
correct, they are online.
They're not face-to-face.
No.
And while the instructors do have some personal interaction with the students, it's something that a student could do from home, keeping up with their work, but could do on their own schedule.
Yes, and that's what these were designed for. They were designed for people who work full-time. So they are online, but interestingly, our programs are very unique as you compare them to other online graduate programs, and that they do have the personal interaction with their professors, usually on a weekly basis, either through discussion boards or live Zooms. We also, within the courses, have an attorney, which is a facilitator within the course. So they're basically working with an expert in the field, and then also another attorney in the course, and they have that interaction throughout the course. So it's different than a lot of the online courses that you see or online degrees where they're just, going through and they don't have that interaction. So they become very, the professors act as mentors, as well as the interaction between the students within the cohorts and the courses.
How do you choose the areas where you want to add a course like this?
Well, we just really looked, we have faculty leads in a curriculum group, and President Harris, and when all of these were developed, we really looked to see what courses, each of them have, 14 to 15 courses, but they're very specific. It's not like a law degree where it's academic and you're discussing, law. They're very specific and practical skills that they're learning in each of the courses. And what's interesting about our courses is that every 7 weeks, we're getting feedback from these professionals saying I wanted to learn this. Well, we can add that in. I just thought of an instance last week in an energy class. Someone came back and said, well, I thought, I was going to learn more about something in midstream. Mm-hmm. And so, that professor went back in and worked with that student, got that information, immediately. So it's just interesting. They're just constantly evolving based on the student need and the profession that they're in.
Now, how many, MLS Masters of Legal Studies program students do you have enrolled now?
Right now we have 502, so it's just grown. I was just looking at our numbers today, and I'm always shocked just how fast it's grown. We started with 11 students and so just even since I've been here, every semester it's growing. We have 3 starts. We start in January, May, and August. So it's always interesting to see how much it is growing.
Now, let's just take January as an example. I realize it'd be the same in the other 2 starting times, but how long, when you start in January, how long are you engaged?
It's a 15-month program. So it's 4 semesters, but they're done in module systems. So your first, every semester you have 2 7-week modules. So basically, by the completion of the program, you've had 8 modules, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there a graduation ceremony, or how does all that work?
Yes, and it's so neat. This year, the year before, because of COVID, we did it online, as did the rest of the university. But this year, we were able to have the live graduation, and the students come back for it. And what's so interesting is that they really feel a part of OU. They don't feel like they're just taking, and some online course somewhere. Like I recently, 2 weeks ago, we had our oil and gas students in town, energy students. That particular program does have an on-campus component, and I mean, they were in their OU gear. We had an OU tailgate, so they really feel like they're OU students. And so graduation's just lovely, and they bring their families in. And yes, they participate in the same graduation that the live students participate in, and then we have special graduation for them too at
Now-
that time.
Excuse me.
In May. We
Yeah.
don't do it in December, it's in May. And that's the way the law school handles their graduations.
Do you have students from outside the state of Oklahoma?
You would be really surprised. Most of our students are outside of the state of Oklahoma. I would say it's around 80 to 85%.
Wow.
So they're coming from all over, and some are coming internationally. I had a student from Ghana, that I spent the week with during graduation. He loved it. We ran into President Harris at Pepe's just randomly. He was like, what's so funny about the online students, it's like, I'm sure you've run into this, Professor Meyers. It's like they've seen a movie star because they've been watching Professor Meyers teach, online, and then they'll see him in person, and they're just thrilled to meet their professors, and then just to happen to run into the president too and get some pictures with him too. They like that, and they like touring around campus, and they loved, touring the law school and touring Sam Noble. So they really do feel a part of the OU community, which I also think makes our online programs unique.
Well, I would think when you chose these topics for study, you have to look at how many other schools are offering this, and
Yes.
where can we find a niche?
Yes.
And when you think of Oklahoma, you think of oil and gas,
Yes.
and I would assume you'd think of indigenous people law as well.
Yes, and I think we're probably between 1 and 2 on the enrollment in the Indigenous Peoples Law program, but I know Professor Meyers knows Professor Robertson and Professor Helton, but they are international experts in this area.
It almost feels like it's being written in real time. I mean, with all of the legal cases that are
Yes.
going on right now.
With the LLM program, right about the time that we finally got it approved was when McGirt came out, and so now attorneys in Oklahoma are getting this really they're coming to our LLM program just for that, to get that specialized knowledge from these experts and how to practice that law.
Our guest is Lisa Millington. You're watching The Verdict. We'll be right back with more.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams rank number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
The Vet Hero office at the University of Central Oklahoma, it is a one-stop shop for veterans when they're trying to get their education.
I call it my encore job. I get to take care of veterans. We help them transition. I was that guy that transitioned after 24 years. And in the end, GI Bill is a benefit that those soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine earned. It was the thing that made us the greatest country in the world coming out of World War II. And it will continue to do the same thing for this future generation of service members.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers and our guest Lisa Millington. She's discussing primarily the MLS program in the University of Oklahoma's Law School.
Yes, Masters of Legal Studies program. You do not have to be a lawyer. In fact, well, I guess you could be, but you don't have to be. But you do have to be a college graduate to be as
Yes.
part of the program. You have recently added the LLM program, the Masters of Law program. Are the Masters of Law students integrated into the same study curriculum as the MLS program?
Interestingly, they are integrated within the cohorts. of the MLS program. And I may have said this earlier, but one thing that also makes our program unique is that we have these very small cohorts that go through the program together at the same time. A lot of online programs will have, 100 people. We limit ours to 20 to 25, so they're getting to work with the attorney and the facilitator and the professors. So we have integrated the LLM students within that. Their assignments are different. They're graded a little bit differently. A lot of them would like to do a capstone or a research project on something that they're particularly interested in, and add that to their resume. So the rigor is different, but they are incorporated into the courses, which is really interesting for the MLS students because they're professionals who are working with attorneys. And so they add another level of, kind of expertise, and a different view on how these particular subject matters work, if that makes sense.
You mentioned earlier other schools, of course, offer these, other law schools. Is the amount of programming that you offer, is that pretty typical, or are there some law schools out there that offer dozens of these types of classes?
There are some that offer more, but what we've really tried to make our programs really special, very, like I said, specialized. We have faculty experts. We have tenured faculty that teach within the program, but we have faculty experts from all over the world that are interacting with our students. For instance, international business, we have the General Counsel of NATO and someone who's teaching arbitration who's actually doing arbitration in the State Department. And so ours is very unique in that way, and so we really are thoughtful about what programs we're offering, if that makes sense.
How do you go about recruiting students, if you do recruit students?
Well, just our marketing is mainly through social media, but I would say a lot of it, we have, outside companies that do the marketing, but I've found since I've been in the job, I think our best marketing and recruiting of the students is through the other students. And so I'll say
word of mouth.
Word of mouth. I think you could talk to Professor Helton and Robertson, and I think the majority of the Indigenous Peoples Law students are from word of mouth from different people working in the tribes. I've gone to conferences and things like that. And so when they get to talk to our students who've actually been in the program and what they've learned in the program, I think that's a great marketing tool in recruiting the students. But then we have our typical, outside advertising and marketing that's done. But I always say if you'll just let them talk to us and we'll connect them with a student or connect them with a faculty member that teaches within the program, I think that's a great way to recruit the student. And I had one that was trying to decide between Indigenous people or energy. Interestingly, he spoke to the energy professor, and the energy professor, after talking to the students, said, I think you should do IPL. But then we have students also in the Indigenous Peoples program. A lot of those students will come back and do healthcare because they realize within their tribes they need to know these healthcare regulations. And I had one that just graduated, and she did both at the same time. She did Indigenous people and energy at the same time. I know.
Wow.
And we definitely recognized her, at graduate. I was like, I do not know. And she works full time. I'd love for you all to meet her. I would love for you all to have another show. And what's more interesting is the students.
Yeah.
The graduates. I would have loved it, but anyway, so yes.
Well, I would think the graduation rate is quite high in a course like this.
Yes, very high. Mm-hmm. And we work with the students, during COVID with the healthcare students. You probably saw this, they are on the front lines of, and we even had some energy students who worked in pipelines and things that ended up being on the front line of COVID. And so we do work with our students. And so we really want them to receive their degree. And so, we work with them to come back and, if they're missing a class, take it at a later date so they finish that degree. We really have high retention and high graduation rates. I think, did I tell you we had 623 graduates so far? So,
well. That's good to know. I, teaching healthcare law in the MLS program, run into students that I really believe I wouldn't tell them for the world, know more about it than I do, and ask just unbelievably good, thoughtful, current questions about healthcare problems, and I have to say, well, I'll get back to you on that.
Right.
They really are a challenge. They're a positive challenge.
I imagine you learn a lot from them.
I really do. I really do.
Because they're on the front lines of
Yeah.
it, and healthcare is just always changing in the regulations. So
Yeah, in the healthcare area, I know we have managing officers of hospitals, we have doctors, nurses, all sorts of folks.
we had a doctor now that was just promoted to very high up in the Medicaid system in the healthcare program, and then we had a student who just graduated in the Indigenous Peoples Program, and he was appointed to be the Director of National Park Service by President Biden. So our graduates are very accomplished in their careers, and both have attributed those degrees to that.
Let's talk about the technology for a moment, because I would imagine if there's a student thinking about this, they probably got their undergraduate degree in a traditional classroom setting, and now all of a sudden they're hearing about, this is an online course. Address some of the hurdles they might be thinking about and how the technology is advanced that might help them feel like they'll get more out of it than maybe they think.
I think they'll get a lot out of it. I am very technologically challenged, I'll say, and in my last job, they would have me test technology when I was over on the main campus. And I was like, if she can do it, then, and so I just think, and what was interesting, people would be like, oh, you're in online programs, because of COVID. And I said, oh, no, these programs have been made to be online for the past 5 years. And so there's a lot of thought that goes into the technology and how it's delivered and how people learn. And it really is easy to use and to get through. And then again, we're very accommodating. If the system shuts down, which on occasion, there's a big, we're going to accommodate that. But it really is very user-friendly. It's the same technology. I know that, that they were using, they use Canvas, which is a technology that's really easy to use, and things are placed within that, but it really is not difficult to use, and I think most could use it if I can.
Well, let's talk about something a little different, and that is the process you had to go through, you and the folks that you work with, in getting these programs formed and approved by the university for offering.
It's a very in-depth process, and so by the time it's approved, it's gone through many committees and very thoughtful. A lot of thought has gone into it.
Is this like a faculty judged committee? Or?
There's many. It starts at the law level, at the law school, where it's going through our faculty leads, who are, like I said, they're world-renowned experts in these subjects. So it goes through that committee, that curriculum committee, as we're going forward with the program, and then we kind of get it into a good, where we think it's at a good position. Then it goes to another committee, who's looking at it from a whole fresh set of eyes. Interestingly, which I think this is good, this committee doesn't have a legal background. And so I went through this process, and so I thought it was really interesting, the questions that they came back with, because to me, you would have thought, oh, well, so that goes through this committee on campus, this programs council, and they look at, and I'm talking about, it's a 40-page document that you're going through. You've listed your faculty and your courses and your objectives. It's a comprehensive document that's gone through the law school, then the committee over on the main campus, and then, it goes to the provost's office. Then there's some committees with our regents and the president's office. We also have OU Online, which is President Harris has formed within the past few years, so it goes through that process. Eventually, it goes to our Board of Regents. And then once it's approved there, then it goes up to the state regents. And so then they have a whole group of committees that reviews it there, and they come back with more questions. So by the time the program is approved, it's had a lot of eyes that goes, and it makes you feel good. You're like, okay, I'm glad, that they had a question, or they found something that they didn't understand. So.
Lisa, it's fascinating. Thank you so much for coming on the
Well, I appreciate it.
But we appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank you so much.
Lisa Monsour, Millington, talking about the MLS programs and the LLM programs at the University of Oklahoma's Law School. Kent and I'll be back with a final word right after this.
It used to be okay in hospitals. It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children coming from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids got to know they can trust you. And that's what we've tried to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We are wrapping up a show. We learned quite a bit more about MLS and LLM and what those stand for. A lot of this material was new to me, but not to you. You're very well immersed in both of these subjects.
I'm lost in them. Immersed is a good way to think of it. Well, Lisa Millington runs a really good ship with the MLS and LLM programs. It is not a lackadaisical exercise, I promise you, from either the student standpoint or the professor standpoint. It is a strict regimen, and I think students profit much from it.
Well, anything we can do to expand education in Oklahoma is a good thing in the big picture, and a more educated workforce is going to help us in a lot of ways. A couple of websites quickly, ou.edu, you can see the law school's website there, and we have a website, theverdict.tv. See you next week.